The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
Coming at you all the way live. Welcome to Melanated Politics. I'm your host, Eric Clark. As always, we look forward to bringing you local and national politics that affects the black community. Thank you so much for tuning in. Go ahead and call in at 323-293-3375. In studio, joining me today is a good friend of mine, comedian Al Toomer.
Welcome back with it, man?
Welcome back to Melanated Welcome back to Melanated Politics,
Glad
Mr.
to
Toomer.
be here, man. Glad to be back down here.
Absolutely.
On this Sunday, hot motherfucker out there, man. Hot as hell out there.
How's everything been going in your world?
Pretty good, man. Like I say tonight, I want you to come up to this comedy festival. We got it the whole weekend over at the Barndale Theater over on Hollywood Boulevard in Vermont. So they have like a festivity during the day. It starts at 2, the comedy starts at like 7 and go through 10. So I need to get you up there and just to get in that atmosphere. Last night it was off the chain, so we expect the second day to be even better than that. So come on up there and check it out, man. Let me know when you want to get on that stage.
Well, I'll get back with you on that after we kick around a few nouns and verbs regarding melanated politics. We have a few subjects today, a few topics today that we're looking forward to expressing with our viewership, with our crowd out there. Number one, Mr. Toomer, we beg the question, are reparations just a dream for black folk in the United States? I'll say that one. Let me beg the question one more time to our audience. Are reparations just a dream to black folk in America? We beg that question, and that's a topic we will be discussing.
Well, it has been a dream so far. And look like it's they'll get around to doing it one day, man. Like I say, I feel like they're gonna wait till the majority of us have been pretty much exterminated. They ain't finna get no 44 million of us, nothing. But you know, if they can ever get the number control, I believe they will do it. And then you might have to join, you know, something else to get it. I don't know if African Americans gonna ever get anything, but I've seen, you know, some, you know, new groups that are not to bring this up, but the gay community is about to get reparations now, and I don't think they've been strong no more than 50 years as a whole. So they're about to get it. So why not us?
So we will be discussing that throughout the show. That question we just begged to our audience. Also, on Melanated Politics, we always talk about the latest Trump drama, the shenanigans of the Trump administration, the white nationalist politics of Trump and his friends. So we will be discussing the latest Trump drama as well as Trump's re-election campaign. He just kicked that off in Orlando, Florida, so we'll get off into that. But first, recently, Mr. Toomer, was the 25th year anniversary of the Los Angeles riots.
Ooh, it's been that long.
It's been 25 years. That was from April, started April 29th.
Okay.
April 29th, May 29th, 1992.
Yeah.
LA riots.
27 years.
Absolutely.
30,
May
yeah.
29th, 1992.
Yeah.
So,
April? Yeah, 92. Like I say, damn near 30 years ago.
to my crowd, I stand to be corrected.
But it is an anniversary. Shit, I was just getting in L.A. during that time. It was a rough time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, in commemoration to the 25th year anniversary of the LA riots was something we're going to discuss, something we'll go into. Not only
27, she said.
27 years.
Yeah.
27 years.
Mm-hmm.
27 years.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that, Toomer?
I just remember that, man, being heated times out here. Rodney King triggered it, but there was a whole lot of other stuff that happened before then with the little girl getting killed at the liquor store and everything. Was it Latasha Harding?
Yes.
Yeah. So that really triggered a whole lot of stuff. But hell, things ain't much changed now since then, man. It's amazing that it ain't been another riot or anything based on that type of stuff happening.
Yeah, but two events that led up to the Rodney King riots, that led up to the Los Angeles riots, LA riots. Number one, obviously, motorist Rodney King that was pretty much beaten repeatedly like a slave when he was pulled over by the Simi Valley Police Department.
Right.
And then after they were judged by a jury of their peers, they were found not guilty. Okay, and then as you said, Natasha Harlings, 15 years old, in Compton, California. She actually died over some orange juice.
Shot in the back of the head.
And that was that was also, as I stated prior, that was also something that led up to the Los Angeles riots 27 years ago.
Yeah.
And we'll never forget that. That was one of the most recent times where black folk as a whole actually stood up, Al Toomer. Actually stood up to protest not only police brutality, but anti-black violence in America.
Yeah, we did that. But if we ever do it again, make sure we don't burn down our own goddamn house. If we ever do that again, because normally riots go when we do riot, we pretty much destroy our own communities, and that really defeats the purpose. So. I know I went out. I mean, I was just getting out there from Georgia, but I went out and rioted and looted and did everything. It was just new to me to be doing some stuff like this. Being from a little place like Georgia, Albany, it's like, man, this is dangerous, but it's fun at the same time. And I remember all the fires, man, because I still pretty much live in the same neighborhood. I remember just looking like a war zone with all the fires and buildings and shit burning.
One thing that has been a misconception regarding the LA riots. The black community wasn't just burned down. A lot of those stores that were burned were Asian American stores. They were not black-owned stores.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a part of that. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of details about the LA riots. I was around at that time.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say about that.
Right.
But at the same time, a lot of black owners who had black-owned businesses, they actually put black-owned.
Yeah, I remember that.
Black-owned.
And stood on top of this shit with shotguns and stuff too. I remember that too. A lot of them stood on their property with guns. They don't come in trying to burn down nothing. I remember all that.
But also the culture was different.
Right.
Culture was different. We're talking about Malcolm X with Spike Lee. We're talking about groups like Public Enemy, X-Clan, a lot of West Coast rappers. Music reflects the society we live in.
Right.
And in that time, we can get together at the drop of a hat, regardless of your geographics, regardless of where you live in the United States.
Yeah.
If you were a melanated person and you had the type of hue that we have and you saw some type of injustice, we would get together at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that'll be something we'll be able to do right now, considering what we see on the news every day. But one more, just to continue on with the LA riots and the anniversary of that 27 years ago, Natasha Harlings was something that really touched me. Not only that, because I am from the city of Compton, and that happened in Compton, and it touched me because the lady got 5 years probation, and even today we talk about the disparities and how it's a double standard with respect to the law,
right? And
how if you're non-African American, if you're black, you get sentenced one way, and if you're not, you get sentenced another way. So that was just, it happened before 1992. It'll happen after 2019. But regarding Natasha Harlings, let's take a look.
All right.
becomes Latasha Harlins coming to the counter with what she was going to buy in one hand, money in the other. Altercation. Walks away, is shot in the back of the head.
Latasha Harlan is really hit home because my daughter was the same age as Latasha Harlan. Rodney King didn't touch me as much as Latasha Harlan because this girl was killed. She was a little teenage girl behind some orange juice. That could have been my child.
Up until Saturday morning, Son Jadu was a Korean grocer in Los Angeles. Now she's an alleged criminal facing a first-degree murder charge.
Well, at this time, she's looking at a maximum of 30 years to life.
According to witnesses and a security camera videotape, Harlan's never tried to steal the juice. Instead, investigators say Du angrily confronted the girl and then shot her with a .38 caliber handgun.
I hope and I know that justice will serve itself and she will get what she deserved.
Soon Jadu had no respect for that young woman. The way they beat Rodney King, okay? Her shooting Latasha Harlan, it's the same people, okay, that are being victimized.
The recommendation of the people was maximum state prison. I think that the death of Latasha deserved that. The court decided otherwise.
Mrs. Du is placed on formal probation for 5 years on the following terms and conditions. Mrs. Du is to perform 400 hours of community service.
Get the camera up!
The judge called for peace.
How can you have peace when this is going on? What? This woman killed a child? She killed a child and not getting any jail time? I haven't gotten over that, really.
Latasha Harlin, rest in peace. There it is there. Black lives do not matter. They didn't matter in 1992. They didn't matter in 1619, and they don't matter in 2019. Rest in peace, Latasha Harlins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
Leave a comment. Let us know what you think about that video. Call in and tell us what you think.
Yeah, that opened up a lot of bad wounds, man. I remember that shit there vividly, and like I say, he shot in the back of the head, and
the black community's relationship with the Asian community's store owners has always been shady.
Right.
You know, I mean, you can there's been a lot of complaints. You know, you go there for years, you can't slide a few pennies, even if you've been going there for years and years.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about Captain Obvious and the elephant in the room. Okay,
right.
That's why we need to support our own black-owned businesses.
Yeah.
Bottom line, but we not to get off track here. Latasha Harlins, rest in peace.
Right.
That was very important, I believe, for us to actually keep the focus of the L.A. riots. A lot of times we let things that have happened in history just go to the wayside.
Yeah.
And we talk about it whenever it's an anniversary, but
right.
It's a point to be made. Mm-hmm. There's actually there's precedents
right.
of black folks standing up, sticking together.
Yeah.
Another good thing that came out of that, Mr. Toomer, is the fact that a lot of the gangs came together in Los Angeles, Compton, Watts, Inglewood, Pomona, Long Beach, etc.
Yeah.
And a lot of the young people tied the rags together and did a stop the killing movement for a while.
Yeah, they got jobs. I worked with a lot of them, man. A lot of the buildings that were burned down, they had construction jobs for us to go. I worked with a lot of Crips and Bloods from all over. We have built the Sears back up over there on Santa Monica and I think Vermont. So it was cool to see us come together like that, and do something. But it takes something like that to happen, and you just hope it can maintain throughout shit. Now with this boy Nipsey going out, we allegedly they're joining together again. Can we stay that way and get something done?
All we have is us.
Right. And really, we're the military of our community, so we should be together. Really, those gangs would be the military of their communities. Stopping, that's what it started for in the beginning, to keep other outsiders from coming in, doing harm, slapping you and killing you and all this type of shit. How it turned on us, I don't know. But we really need to get back to being our own Army, Air Force, and Marines to stop motherfuckers from coming in our communities and doing whatever they want to. Shooting a little girl in the head, we don't do anything. March and protest. That shit has to stop.
Well, the one thing we have to do in order to do that is to disassociate ourselves with their culture and get back to our culture.
Right.
The culture of the original now Valley brothers and sisters.
Right.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. When we get back to that, we can hold hands again. And continue to rise again up as a people.
Mm-hmm.
The Alpha and the Omega. But let's move on to your friend and mine, President Donald John Trump.
What has he done now?
In Orlando, Florida, he just announced his re-election campaign.
I
he
heard
has
him
plenty
say
of
that
support.
if he get a second term, he said that if he does that, he gonna stand for a third term. Like, I refuse to leave. It's like, damn, y'all just gonna let this man get away with whatever he wants to do? I thought he would have been gone by now, literally. I really thought he wouldn't. I didn't think he's gonna make it this far, even impeached or some other method. I didn't think he's gonna ever make it this far.
Well, even if you consider his latest shenanigans, okay, he almost committed to starting a war with Iran, okay, and then he pulled back at the last moment, okay. April Ryan asked, she posed a question to Donald Trump. We all know April Ryan, intelligence sister. She posed a question to Donald Trump. Will you now apologize to the Central Park Five? You know what he said? No.
I'm surprised he didn't say hell no.
Also, another thing he just went back on, the United States government, through Donald Trump's leadership, they're supposed to knock on doors and go round up so-called illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
Over 1 million. But they put that off for a couple of weeks. It's all politics, Mr. Toomer.
Yeah, it is, man.
It's politics, and it's also a lack of empathy, and it's also the fear of the browning of America.
Yeah.
And it's also the stoking of white fear. So Donald Trump's presidency, it's all systems go. Yeah. No cut, no chaser. He has plenty of support.
Yeah.
You know, one of the reasons why we on Melanated Politics, we talk about Donald Trump a lot. It's not just because he's the current president of the United States. It's not just because he's a bigot and a white nationalist and a white supremacist and a proven liar. One of the reasons why we talk about him is because if you listen instead of hear and study instead of just pay attention, you understand that it's a loyalty movement with Donald Trump and his particular crowd.
Yeah.
If we stuck together like the Trump crowd sticks together, then we'll get back to our original state of existence with respect to being producers instead of being consumers.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly where we need to go.
Now, also, Donald Trump, going back to his re-election campaign that I just stated he kicked off in Florida, in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah.
Understand something. Donald Trump has been ordained by the Lord. Donald Trump has been certified by the far-right Republican Party, by the evangelicals. They support this man. I'll say it again. If black folk were just 0.01% loyal to each other like Donald Trump's crowd is loyal to him, we'll be okay.
Right.
Now, it was a Pastor Paula White. Pastor Paula White. She had one of the most psychotic pump-up speeches you will ever hear in the history of human existence. She went to Donald Trump's rally and she spoke for him and spoke up for him and pumped the crowd up. So let's go ahead and check out the good
places. So right now, let every demonic network that has aligned itself against the purpose, against the calling of President Trump, let it be broken, let it be torn down in the name of Jesus. Let the counsel of the wicked be spoiled right now. According to Job chapter 12, verse 17, I declare that President Trump will overcome every strategy from hell and every strategy of the enemy, every strategy, and he will fulfill his calling and his destiny. Destroy and divide their tongues, O Lord, according to Psalm chapter 55, verse 9. Give President Trump strength to bring forth his destiny, according to Isaiah chapter 66, verse 9. Let the secret counsel of wickedness be turned to foolishness right now in Jesus' name. And I declare that no weapon formed against him, his family, his calling, his purpose, this counsel will be able to be formed. Now I declare that you will surround him and protect him from all destruction. Let the angel of the Lord encamp around about him, around his family, according to Psalm chapter 34, verse 7. Establish him in righteousness, and let oppression be far from him, according to Isaiah 54, 14. I deploy the hand of God to work for him in the name of Jesus. I secure his calling, I secure his purpose, I secure his family, and we secure victory in the name which is above every name, the name that has never failed for this nation and for my life, the name of Jesus Christ. And everybody said, amen.
Let the church say, amen.
I don't even know what to say to that, man.
Let the church say amen.
I don't go to church. Anybody black look at that and still go pick up a Bible and still go in there. I mean, how could you not see that? Did you see the people behind her? Oh, man, that's why I don't go to church right there. Because the same words she used, we use those same words in different ways. But just seeing that.
Now, when Donald Trump stated he can shoot somebody in the street, he'll get support.
Get away with
he
it.
can grab a woman's you-know-what and still be elected. He can come up with a conspiracy theory that Senator Ted Cruz's dad has something to do with the JFK murder. Okay, he can give away Senator Lindsey Graham's cell phone number live in a debate environment. Yeah. Okay, he can say that Muslims can never come over here. He can put immigrants in cages at the border, a snake in the grass. Okay, so these people are loyal to Donald Trump. Yeah. See, we have to look past Donald Trump. We have to look at the mentality and the psyche of the Donald Trump crowd. Understand this: 62% of white folk voted for Donald Trump. 50% of white women voted for Donald John Trump. Yeah. Okay, so he's right. It does not matter what he says. It doesn't matter what he. It wasn't like that woman said that at the beach at 3 o'clock in the morning by herself. There were people behind her, and they were pumped up like a flat tire. Yeah, holla at me, Toomer.
Yeah, well, he got that's the purebred white. The whites that feel like they're entitled just for being white, man, and they, whenever they feel threatened, they act like they're acting now, and they actually feel threatened, and they got a good reason to feel threatened because he is their last motherfucking stand. If you really look at it, that's all this shit is about. Look, we've heard it. I've heard Farrakhan talk about it for a minute about the A rule is over with. You always knew they wasn't gonna just hand it over. So if anybody expected them to go down without a fight, then you crazy. But I'm surprised it ain't worse than it already is, Eric.
Well, right now, Elizabeth Warren she's going up in the polls. Joe Biden is steady. Bernie Sanders is right there with Elizabeth Warren. Mm-hmm. But who will be the Democrat that will take Donald Trump down? I say no one. I'm letting everyone know right now, my prediction on Melanated Politics is Donald Trump will be reelected. Yeah. And he will serve 2 terms as the president of the United States of America. This is the last stance for white nationalism. It's the last stance for white supremacy. It's from a policy perspective. Yeah. Okay? You know,
and I thought Biden would have had a chance just because he's with Obama, but this shit looked like he's just as weak as the rest of them. That would have been a hell of a ticket if he'd have picked them. Like, I don't know if Barack would do it, but if he'd like picked him as the vice president, you don't think he'd have a chance to beat him? Joe Biden. If he had Obama as his running mate.
Well, Joe Biden right now, he's in competition for black votes. Okay, right now the Democrats have been in South Carolina, pretty much trying to obtain black votes, giving speeches. Yeah. It's 20 plus candidates that are running for the presidency of the United States on the Democratic ticket, on the Democratic side. Yeah, and they're all. You cannot be the Democratic president without obtaining a fair amount of black vote. Yeah. Okay, a fair amount of non-white votes. You know what I'm saying? So you have to go ahead and obtain your black vote. So they're catering to that. The reason why I say that is because he is in competition with Elizabeth Warren. Okay, he's in competition also with Bernie Sanders. Yeah, Bernie Sanders, the senator from Vermont. So we'll see how that plays out.
He beat all them, man. Somebody's going to have to come out of the middle of nowhere.
Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States of America. I don't think there's a Democrat that can take him down. And I think that one thing that was underestimated, never underestimate the power of white nationalist loyalty. Yeah. I mean, never underestimate that. Even when we talk about the Mueller report that came out. Yeah. Despite state television propaganda, Fox News, how they try to invent a false narrative and put a spin on no collusion, no obstruction, although the Mueller report didn't state that specifically. Yeah. These people stick together. Why? Because they want to obtain power. Yeah. So while we running around and having fun and stuff, we're trying to have fun and not be as serious. Yeah, we need to maintain our power.
Yeah, but this all started with when Barack got in there, man. Them folks lost their mind to see a black president. It's like, shit, we really finna start losing everything. Now, it started with him. That's how Trump was able to get in, because they feared it like, I guess they thought it was going to be like sports. Whenever they finally let us into anything, we finally take over. So once he got it, man, Trump, that's the only reason he won, was because of Barack Obama. We got a black president. Niggas been to take over. We can't have that. So it's a good thing that...
Well, let me ask you a quick question before we move on to the telephone call that we have in. Yeah. Just a quick yes or no. Do you think that President Donald Trump will be reelected? Do you believe that?
Yeah. Unless somebody come, we still got 2 years before that. Somebody's going to have to come out of the middle of nowhere that we don't know anything about. I don't see anything out there right now that could beat him.
But we'll continue that discussion on the other side of the phone call. But right now we have a telephone call, a caller calling in. Welcome to Melanated Politics.
Oh, thank y'all for having me.
Hey, welcome to Melanated Politics. I'm Eric Clark. What's your name, sir?
My name is George Taylor.
Okay, George Taylor. Thank you for calling in to Melanated Politics. Tell us how you really feel.
I want to tap in on a few things. My number one thing is as African American people, I always feel that we be so quick to say, well, 50% of white women and 62%. But we also forget that African American as well as Latino Americans also voted for him as well. Yeah. We also have to tackle the self-hate also. So I also feel that he will be reelected because a lot of Americans think just like that. A lot of Americans, my biggest thing is we talk about changing the world, but we don't even speak to our neighbor anymore. We don't respect the old lady down the street. We don't pick up our groceries. We don't each one teach one. So we say that we for the better of the United States of America, but we don't feed the homeless. And I think that it goes hand in hand. Right. And until we start thinking different, this is the type of result that we will get. That's the reason why we do have Donald J. Trump in the White House.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you do believe that Donald Trump will be reelected and serve a second term as the president of the United States. Is that the bottom line? Is that what you're saying?
I do think that he will be reelected. I think the only person, and like I felt last year, is Bernie Sanders. but everybody's on the fence about Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Now we're
he pretty much struck out with the reparations thing.
Exactly. And with Donald Trump, this is why he always wins. It's either you hate him or you like him.
Right.
It's no on the fence with him. And I think that's why he will be either reelected or he's going to get edged out by Bernie. It maybe, but I doubt it.
Yeah. Well, there is a third option. Hell, he is 70-some years old. Hell, he could be the next president. Denying that.
George, thank you for calling in. You made some very pertinent and interesting points. I'll say this before you go, my brother. Bernie Sanders has an issue with the black vote. If you heard our conversation earlier, Bernie Sanders is in competition with other Democrats, and the reason why there is competition because there's other Democrats that have come out straightforward and said they support reparations for the descendants of African slaves in this country right now in 2019/2020. Bernie Sanders, when the question was posed to him initially, George, he wasn't on board.
Originally, he was not, yes.
So that's my take on Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. And he's another one too old. Actually, these guys in these 70s, man, they got no business running for the presidency. Should be a young man's game. Ain't no one 70 years old got no business lead people because they too set in their ways, especially old white men. Bernie or Donald Trump ain't got no business being the president.
Do you think, George, do you think any African-American candidate, perhaps Kamala Harris or Cory Booker, do you think there's any other candidate that can defeat Donald Trump in the next election?
I love what Cory Booker did with bringing back his neighborhood in Jersey. I'm not a big fan of Kamala Harris. I'm not, because she locked up a lot of young brothers up there when she was district attorney, and so I'm not a huge fan of hers. And so it goes back to what you were saying. This is the reason why, and this is why I feel like we were set up in the first place. Because nobody is really qualified to actually take the damn job from the man.
That's a shame. He's actually the best they got to offer.
Regarding how Republicans and Donald Trump's friends and voters are so loyal to Donald Trump. We broke down all the reasons earlier. I don't have to go through that right now again.
Right, exactly.
What is your take on that? Do you believe that because he has so much loyalty, because he can say just about anything, because he can go back on his word, because he hasn't been presidential, because he has not expressed the aptitude, the intellectual capacity to be a president, he was voted in because this is the white nationalist last stance, and he had just an abundance of support. Do you think that the same Trump crowd will come out for Donald Trump in this next election? And also, if so, do you think that'll put him over the top, George? Before I let you go.
You know what? And this is where I think Bernie can edge. I don't know, because he has screwed them as well, and we kind of elaborated on this. Donald Trump is the white spook that stepped out of doors. Donald Trump had been bullied, beat up. By the time he got in, he on pure espionage. So I think he has lied to them as well. And I think not only has he pulled the wool from over our eyes as the African American community, but I also feel like some of his white nationalist fans and his backing are also starting to realize that he's full of shit. And like you say, he also is ignorant. And should he be in charge of our country? So I do think that with his actions, I also do think that he's losing a small portion or a nice portion of his following, because they're starting to realize he's just yelling jargon. You understand what I'm saying? He's just being beat. He don't really run with us. He don't really deal with us. He just ride with us because we need our vote.
Yeah, I agree with that. But really, Donald stands up more for, and a lot of the enlightened white people ain't with him. Donald Trump is really he's like the Malcolm X for poor broke white people. That's really who he represents, and there's a lot of them who feel like they've been left out and they need stuff just because they're white, but they're failures. You broke in this country, and you white man or white woman, if you were broke in this country complaining about a black person taking your job, you a sorry piece of shit.
Yeah.
This country is set up for you. It's built for you. Just do the right thing. But just because you're white, you feel like, and they don't ever look at other rich white people. They look at rich black people that's doing well, and compare themselves with them. Like, if you didn't have that, I would have that. So that's basically what he represents: poor white trash individuals. And there's a lot of them out there.
And can I go to elaborate?
Go ahead, George.
I think that they're starting to realize that he's pissing on them. He's using them to keep the shit going. You know what I'm saying? To keep the drama going. Because he rich. He don't care about
No, he don't. What they're realizing is what we realize as black people about Barack Obama. We actually thought he was going to be able to change stuff for us. But in all actuality, there's only so much he can do. So these broke white people thought that he's going to when he's talking about bringing out coal mining jobs and all this, man, that shit is outdated. You can't bring that back. He promised them jobs and shit, and he ain't delivered on none of it. But one thing about broke white people is they don't march around and sing. If he ended up getting Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, it would be one of them that would do that to him. And that's not totally out of the question.
Yeah.
George, my brother, thank you so much for calling in. Thank you for your insight. Once again, you made some very outstanding points. Hopefully, if you don't mind, I would like to invite you live in the studio one of these Sundays at 11 o'clock on Melanated Politics.
I love coming. Thank you for having me. Great topics, and I'm enjoying the show.
Thanks again for calling in. Peace and blessings.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Y'all have a great one. Thank you, Eric. Thank y'all. Have a great one.
All right, George. Yeah, man. So that's pretty much what he is. You've heard me say that before. He's a Malcolm X of pro-black, broke white folks. That's exactly who he is. Martyr for them.
So when you say Donald Trump is Malcolm X to poor white folk, what exactly? Because when I was on your show, Toomer's Town, on Morris Media, you said we talked about that before. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that? I agree with you, but what do you mean?
He's like this knight in shining armor to them, man. I mean, you think about how we looked at, how we viewed Malcolm. Malcolm was talking about the downtrodden, the poor, and was talking about, us getting our stuff together and, doing things for self and this type of stuff. Well, that's basically what he represents to him, man. It is more broke white people in this country than it is broke black people. They don't talk about that. It's a whole lot of them over here.
There's more broke white folks on drugs than black folk. Yeah. There's more white folks on public assistance than black folk, but that's not what you're going to see on television. That's not what you're going to see on social media or the internet. That's if you can degrade someone to an animal, when you crack them over the head and the cops get off, the general public has been psychologically conditioned to not feel sorry for that person. They've been desensitized to black pain, which goes to the next topic. And we touched on this before, but let's go back to that. Are reparations just a dream to black folk in the United States? Right now, Mr. Toomer, there are a lot of Democratic candidates that have made that a part of their platform. Yeah, they go to these different events where there's a lot of black voters, a lot of non-white voters, even a lot of white voters, and people always ask, are you for or are you against reparations? And like we said, Bernie Sanders, he's been flip-flopping like a fish out of water. Right. Okay, so he's irrelevant. Elizabeth Warren, Senator Warren, she's been for that. Other Democratic candidates have been for that. Obviously, there is not a Republican in the United States of America as far as in Congress or in the Senate that is for reparations. So reparations has always been like something that probably black folk talk about in that particular crowd, but I would go as far as to say it has become mainstream. But I will say this: I have a news flash for America. They can never pay us back. for what they have done to us. From the year of our Lord, 1619, until 2019, they can never pay us back monetarily. Although we were promised retribution and restitution and reparations, they'll never be able to pay us back. Last week on Capitol Hill, there was a hearing regarding just not even reparations, but just to get it started, just to start pretty much a conversation. And there is a young man that's a journalist. He's also an author. It's someone that I study, someone that I admire. His name is Mr. Coates. He was on Capitol Hill, and he actually addressed what Senator Mitch McConnell out of Kentucky said. He addressed that, and he addressed a few more issues, but he can say it better than I can. So,
okay,
Mr. Coates.
Damage that enslavement did, besides the economic damage, besides the normalization of torture, of rape, besides the normalization of treating people as though they are things, is the institution in the American mind that black people are necessarily inferior. In 1865, when black people were emancipated, that belief did not magically dissipate. It proceeded for 100 years afterwards. It proceeded, as I said in my testimony, well into the lifetime of many panel members, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, and then many of the people were here in this audience. And so it's not a matter of the past. These things are linked. It's been said, I think, or alluded to repeatedly throughout this conversation that somehow wealthy African Americans are immune to these effects. But in addition to the wealth gap that's cited, one thing that folks should keep in mind is that quote-unquote wealthy African Americans are not the equivalent of quote-unquote wealthy white Americans in this country. The average African American family in this country making $100,000, which is, decent money, actually lives in the same kind of neighborhood that the average white family making $35,000 a year lives in. That is totally tied to the legacy of enslavement and Jim Crow, and the input and the idea in the mind that white people and black people are somehow deserving of different things. If I injure you, the injury persists even after I actually commit the act. If I stab you, you may suffer complications long after that initial actual stabbing. If I shoot you, you may suffer complications long after that initial shooting. That's the case with African Americans. There are people well within the living memory of this country that are still suffering from the after effects of that.
Thank you very much. I yield.
There you have it.
Yeah.
And I implore our audience, please study and research this young man. No one can break it down like this young man with respect to these topics that he discusses and that he researches and that he writes about. He has books out there. He's just a fantastic speaker, and he makes so much sense intellectually from a fact-based perspective. Yeah. So once again, I encourage our viewers to check that man out, study and research they do, and I also beg the question to our audience, and go ahead and leave something in the comments section. Are reparations just a dream for black folk in America? Is that something we will ever obtain as a people from the United States government? What do you think, Mr. Toomer?
If we do, we're going to need a lot more brothers like him able to express the stuff, express it the way he's expressing it, man. And there are other things, like I say, slavery, I doubt if we're going to ever get that. But there are things that have happened that has affected, this generation before them. We should be focusing more on the Jim Crow era, reparations for that. One of my friend Thomas Ward posted on Facebook the other day, it's like, man, what the hell with reparations for slavery? What about reparations for putting crack in the black community, or something like that is more relevant, something that is more of touch, that affected people here today as opposed to what happened back in 1865. So we're going to have to look at every option. But as far as them doing anything for what happened 200 or 300 years ago, they dug in on that. That was then. None of us had anything to do with it. None of y'all were suffering from it. So try to find something else. And I look at this because I briefly mentioned this before. If you look at what the gay community is doing, because they've only been a community for, like 50 years, and they're about to get it, you have to look at something more relevant, more current is what I'm saying. And there's been a whole lot of other shit not worse than slavery, but they've constantly been doing it. And Jim Crow might be, closer than slavery to got them go back and say, well, let's get reparations for this. It's going to have to be something, like I say, in the current scheme of things, as opposed to shit that people been dead 200 or 300 years ago. They ain't finna do that.
We have an issue that we've always had as a community, as a people, with respect to not sticking together. Some of the biggest, like, haters, for lack of a better term, of reparations are people, I like to call them painted, almost said black people. They're painted black, but if you take a little butter knife from a little donut shop, they give you one of them nasty tuna sandwiches, and you get to scraping.
He ain't probably got
that black skin.
Get a rag and rub it off.
These individuals, okay, they're against reparations, so they always find someone that'll put on a top hat and a cane in a tuxedo with a ducktail on the back of it, and sing and dance and say, oh no, everything will be okay, and why don't you people just move on?
If we don't look at it, a lot of these bootleg Negroes have gotten motherfucking reparations, man.
Well, one thing I would like our audience to also look into is there have been other nations, that have been other people that have obtained reparations. Britain paid New Zealand to a certain effect. The Japanese were paid around World War II for the prison, the concentration camps that they had to suffer through during the World War II era. Okay, Native Americans to some point. Now I'm pretty sure all of these nations and individuals were not paid to their liking, or something that was significant, or something that said, okay, that was enough. But the point is, everyone got something,
Jewish people,
except for black folk.
Still get it.
Israel gets
still
paid.
Get so many millions annually.
When they used to say the sun will never set on the British Empire. When England, Great Britain, when they were in India for all of those years, they gave India not what they wanted, but a little something. Black folk in America are perhaps the only nation of people in the belly of the beast that have not received reparations from this government.
Right.
And it's not just a financial thing. You hear all these excuses. What are they going to do with the money? How about set up some type of college account? Or some type of businesses, or first of all, you can't give someone any money and tell them how to spend it, unless your mother gives you some money. I'm gonna give you 5, but you better come back with 3, and you already know what's gonna happen, and then she'll give you that look, Mr. Toomer.
Exactly.
But they can never pay us back for the middle passage. Right. Okay, they can never pay us back for the terrorism, the escape attempts. Okay, the auction blocks. They can never pay us back for Reconstruction, Jim Crow, the lynchings, Tulsa.
You can never pay back.
They can never pay us back,
Tulsa
man.
would be another thing.
They can never pay us back for the prison system that they had back then with the chain gangs. They can never pay us back. Now, morally, would that be the right thing to do, to pay us back? I think anyone on the face of this earth with an actual conscience would actually say yes, unless you lack the empathy.
And they could do it, dude.
For
each one of us is what 44 million of us. One rich white man could come up off of 44 million. I'm surprised they ain't already done it. It's like, I'm tired of y'all talking about this. All right, there's $1 million apiece. When you go through that, don't come ask us for nothing.
If somebody owed you some money, and this is the issue I have with black folk. But like I say, the painted folk that are against reparations. A lot of these, no, we don't need it. It's a long time ago, the whole pick yourself up from your own bootstraps mentality philosophy, right? Now, one of their cousins or a friend owed them $5 or $10, they ready to stop speaking for 20 years.
Exactly.
But we let them off the hook.
Yeah.
See, one of the reasons why we haven't got paid is because that's our own fault. We had let them off the hook.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Now the whole thing about it, when you deal with certain people, if you don't have their money by a certain time, they don't even want the money anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it like that.
Yeah.
One of our best speakers, one of our best, greatest leaders that I've always looked up to was Fannie Lou Hamer. And there was a special called The Heritage of Slavery. And I want our audience to check out what Fannie Lou Hamer says.
You see, and this lead me to say, all of the burning and bombing that was done to us and the houses, nobody never said too much about that, and nothing was done. But let something be burned, by a black man, and then, my God, you see, the flag is drenched with our blood. Because, you see, so many of our ancestors was killed because we have never accepted slavery. We had to live on it, but we've never wanted it. So we know that this flag is drenched with our blood. So what the young people are saying now, give us a chance to be young men, respected as a man, as we know this country was built on the black backs of black people across this country. And if we don't have it, you ain't gonna have it either, because we gonna tear it up. That's what they saying. And people ought to understand that. I don't see why they don't understand that. They know what they've done to us. All across this country, they know what they've done to us. This country is desperately sick, and man is on the critical list. I really don't know where we go from here.
May I have your attention, please? Greyhound coach now loading on my end.
Where many black Mississippians are going is north. Over 400,000.
Fannie Lou Hamer. If you don't know who she was before now you know. Fannie Lou Hamer.
Yeah.
Much respect.
Yeah, that was deep there, man. I think they made that back in the 60s or 70s.
1968.
Yeah, year I was born. And here we is 51 years later, man. Ain't much even changed about it. But they had, in the 60s, it was really going that way, where it looked like a real revolution, man, and then it just got, I don't know, drugged down or whatever happened in the 70s, but there's a generation of us that dropped the ball after the 60s, and that's where we stand today. With, because that's what you heard she said there. You gonna let us have this, or we'll sabotage the whole thing. And that's something we could have been done.
Absolutely.
We'd rather live the way they treat us as opposed to got them just gone saying fuck it.
I have more good news, Mr. Toomer.
What's that, man?
There have been some snakes in the grass that have been fired from the Donald Trump administration.
That man fire somebody every week.
And once again, Melanated Politics will be on every Sunday at 11 o'clock. Okay, our next show we'll be off this coming week. Okay. We'll be off next week, but the week after that, which is on the 7th, we'll be coming at you all the way live, like we do every time like we do each time, every time at this time. But every week we will have a weekly snake in the grass. Most likely it'll be Toomer, someone from the Trump administration. So there's good news. I would like to propose another holiday. Okay, the DHS secretary. Secretary Nielsen, she was fired. Well, they said she resigned. She was fired from the Trump administration. That's the woman that's literally responsible and made the decisions for the young children being locked in cages at the border, and she also instituted the family separation. So she's been fired.
Right.
Along with Cesar Chavez Day and Cinco de Mayo, they need to put that right up there with the brown folk holiday. Yeah. Because she's been fired. Secretary Nielsen, snake in the grass.
Yeah, that was low.
Betsy DeVos, Education Secretary, snake in the grass. Okay, now this week's, Mr. Toomer, before we go. This week's snake in the grass, the former press secretary for Donald Trump, Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Oh, she resigned, huh? Did he fire her?
Well, they say she resigned,
yeah,
but
decent way of.
If you have more common sense than a head of lettuce, you understand that woman was fired.
Yeah, man, Donald just fired anybody.
She was one of the most loyal.
Yeah.
People that was attached to Donald Trump by the hip.
Them the type of people gonna come back to get him. Now, what happened to the black girl was in there for a minute? And initially, when he fired her,
Omarosa.
She wrote a book and everything, but she done quietly just dissipated. He creates enemies among his own circle with a lot of these people he done fired. Them the ones gonna come back to eventually bring him down, because they know him better than anybody. But he ain't got no problem. Like, he's still on The Apprentice. You're fired.
Wow.
Say anything I don't like. Get the fuck up out of here. You're fired. That's Donald Trump.
So his administration continues to drop like flies. His administration is literally in shambles. When I say he, I mean President Donald John Trump. His administration is in shambles. If we went with just right is right and wrong is wrong, and we just went with ethics and principles and morals, there's no way on earth this person would ever be re-elected. Right. But if you are a student of history, and we don't have to go that far back, if we look at the dedication and the loyalty and the commitment that the Trump supporters have for this man, you will understand that more than likely he will be the next president of the United States. Also, June 17th, 2012, Rodney King was found dead at 47 years old in the swimming pool of his Rialto, California home. So we spoke on the 27th year anniversary of the LA riots. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that. Also, to our audience, please research everything that we have presented to you today so we all can have a better understanding. Also, melanated politics, just by definition, melanated, the essence of color. Politics meaning war without bloodshed. The essence of color, war without bloodshed. I feel so lucky to have one of my best friends, Al Toomer.
No problem,
that,
man.
Joined me here today.
Here, man.
Yes,
Missed
sir.
the show. So hell, I'll
so
be back.
To put a cap on everything, Mr. Toomer, with respect to all the topics that we have discussed, your closing words on anything.
Man, you had a very interesting lineup today. I liked all the clips and everything. And this coach boy, I got to go look at some more of him, because it's going to take somebody like him to be able to very clearly express himself on talking about this reparation thing. So maybe he's that guy. And then on that, we're going to definitely need a blueprint, a plan. I've never seen anything on a blueprint paperwork saying this is what we want. We always we ask for something, but then let them decide what it is. We can say Obama didn't do anything. I don't know if anybody black actually presented Barack Obama with anything in writing and saying this as a people is what we want. So that's one of the things that's needed. Some in paper, in written, like our own Constitution. This is what we want, and let's see how it goes from there. You can't just say I want something and then let them decide what it is that it is you want. So that's what I'd say about the reparation thing.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in to Melanated Politics. Once again, you are rocking with Morris Media Studios. Shout out to Sheena and the poetess.
All right.
We will always let our tongue be our gun and our wisdom be our ammunition. Thanks again for tuning in to Melanated Politics. Peace.